I want to introduce our speaker. Unfortunately, our organizer is out of town. He should be doing some of these things. So some of the executives will join at the tail end to also offer their support. But for now, I'm behind the driving seat. So today we are blessed to have Reverend Professor Engineer Charles Anum Adams, a past president of the Ghana Institution of Engineering. He's a transport consultant, he's an academician, and he's on top also a reverend minister. He's a marriage counselor. I wouldn't want to give all the gist. I want to give him the platform to tell us all about himself, and then he will deliver a lecture to teach us about how to start a consulting business. And if I should say, the reason why we're having this program or presentation is as we age, especially in our engineering career, we want to look out for options. Should you go into the lecture room to teach the young ones and to nurture young engineers? Should you be a consultant? Should you retire and go and sit at home? What are the options? So today is one of such series. And to start with, we are having Prof. Adam. So without much ado, Prof.
All right. Thank you very much, Michael. Can you hear me?
The floor is yours. Kindly tell us a bit about yourself, your background, your so many titles. And if there are other titles, please, you could also add so that we can come and worry you small. And then from then, you would deliver your presentation. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think as if I knew what you were going to ask me. So everything is woven into the presentation. So I guess I will talk about myself as I start the presentation. But thank you all for joining this presentation this evening. And I'm actually coming to you from Monrovia in Liberia. And thanks for the opportunity. I want to acknowledge the privilege of being asked to give this talk. I'm sure it will be beneficial to somebody or all of you, or it will set you thinking. As Engineer Michael Kujo said, sometimes people are thinking, as we age, can we become consultants? But the point is that why do you want to become a consultant when you are old? Can you start now and stop complaining that your salary is not good? So by the time I finish speaking to you, hopefully I should be able to answer some of your questions. I see some of you, I know some of you, so maybe most of the people online are not too old, which is good, because they say you can't teach an old new tricks. So sometimes when you are too old and you are listening to a presentation like I'm going to give, it will look like this is not the only way. Of course, what I'm going to speak about is not the only way to do well, but it's a way. And I'm not going to talk to you about something that I've read from somewhere, because I stopped doing presentations where I go to the internet and copy what people are doing and telling people. I prefer to say things that I'm doing, have done, and I'm doing, I will continue to do. So let me start and share my screen so that I can start the presentation. So can you see my screen? Hopefully.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So thank you very much. They should be showing. Yes. Good. So thank you very much for coming. So this webinar to share my experience, I'm very glad about it. We're going to talk about engineering consultancy and business development. But I'm going to talk about 3 lessons from 3 decades of practice as an engineer and a professor. And these 3 decades, I have spent probably 25 years of it as a consultant. And a consultant at various levels, at the local level, at the maybe individual client level, corporate level. I've done consultancy to countries. I mean, I've done probably the only thing I have not done is that to set up an office and employ people, which I didn't want to, but probably because there are no jobs. The other day I was thinking about it that people cannot set up offices and employ people. Maybe I should set up one and employ people, not because I want to make money out of it, but because so that somebody will get a job. Because perhaps, of course, I employ people already. I mean, I have an office, that I call consultancy office. But almost everything that I do, I employ engineers. I've employed engineers for many years. I started, probably I'm the only lecturer on the campus that for the last almost 15 years. And I've always had a private TA that I pay who's a graduate. So I don't have to call myself so company limited. But I guess the way my mind works, it works like a company. So I'm going to try and then share with you a little piece. I can't say everything here because I want to talk about myself. It would take a long time to talk about myself, and I don't like talking about myself. So what I'm going to try and do is to talk to you a little piece of my life, which I hope will engage your attention, and then we can start to have a conversation around that. This is a little bit of myself. I'm sure when you Google, you will find written about me. I discovered recently, one of my students taught me that GPT maybe is better at describing people than myself. And he summarized my profile, one-page profile from the internet using Chat GPT or Meta AI. And I think that these tools became very sophisticated. Because when they summarize my profile and everything I do, the only thing that it got wrong, I won't tell you so that you put it online. Because I tell you, if you put it online, then it will always get it right. But I've noticed that you have to keep a little piece of information from WhatsApp and from online so that the computer cannot always get it right about me. So those of you who put everything online, very soon, somebody can write your whole profile without you because everything is text. But let me say that the introduction here, I'll talk about a little bit about myself, my childhood, and then maybe before I went to university, then I went to university, then I got employed, then I started doing consulting, and then I'll go to a series of things. Maybe graphics that I want to show, I'll explain to you, and later on I'll try and then perfect them because I realize that when I do them, they will better explain 30 years of my life in one chart. So what you will see in the presentation may not be the final, I'm sure. I conceived that as I was preparing the presentation yesterday, and I said, oh, if I put all my life, how would it look like if I put my life in one chart? How would it look like? So I will show you the first version, and then I'll explain to you what it is, and then I'll finish it and polish it up later on. So who is this man called Charles Adams? I'm an engineering or transport thought leader because I have an opinion on how things ought to be done. And I can go to champion in transport, in engineering, and are being done. For example, if I'm speaking to you now, we're trying to professionalize truck drivers in Kumasi. And this is an activity that I'm very passionate about because in my lifetime, I want to see that transport in Ghana is different from the way I came to meet it. And by the grace of God, I am sure we will succeed because the first 2 or 3 workshops we have had have been fantastic. And we are probably moving together. I say together, myself and the truck drivers and their unions and everything. We agree on a lot of things and the sponsors will also agree. And because of that, I'm quite committed to help them to move in a certain direction that perhaps we have not tried before. So I'm an engineering transport thought leader. I'm a university academic and a professor, and I've taught in the university since 22nd November 1993. So as you can see, apart from a few the people in the industry who are close to retirement, most of the people that are practicing, they did civil or traumatic engineering or engineering, most of them are the people that are taught in the university. Beyond K University, I've taught in other places as well. I've worked as an engineering consultant in parallel for many, many years, working either as an associate, helping consultants, companies to win jobs, or being hired directly as a company, as a consultant, or companies subletting part of what they're doing to me to do for them. So I think I understand a bit of the game and how things work, but I may not be able to tell you everything, but I can tell you a few things that will get you started, and then we can continue the conversation later. I'm a pastor, an ordained minister at that. An ordained minister means can bury dead people, have buried many dead people, have officiated weddings. That anything that a pastor can do or should do. I mean, maybe if I were full-time, I would be a bishop by now, but that's for another day. I do a lot of career coaching and counseling and youth counseling, and that's one of the things I do. I'm very passionate about. I'm a married counselor. Soon you will see a series of sessions, executive sessions that I will be advertising, because some of the things that I speak about, you don't find talking about them, but they are so important. And I've helped, by the grace of God, many marriages to stand. I've helped people to do better and also understand things and move their lives forward. And I think that probably not done well by not institutionalizing it. That I do with my wife. But I mean, usually when I'm not active, then she goes down, because probably I have a big role, a big part to play in the whole activity. I have 3 children, 3 adult children, and I'm a good family man, and I'll tell you about that later. Even though you see me all over the place, in terms of being a father and a family man, probably if you think you know somebody who is better than myself, you can bring their events and time with their family and compare notes and see whether you're able to do it better. Because everything you can be efficient and effective. And that's what I try to do in almost everything I do in this world. So I was born in Takrade many years ago. I think about 1968, about February. And I attended experimental or primary school, West Ridge in secondary. I went to the experimental GHS then because my father made a mistake. I don't know whether he made a mistake or was deliberate, but I want to say it was a mistake, because I was actually class 3 going to class 4, and then he went to register me for an exam for people going to GHS 1. Then when he came home and then he told me that he has registered me, I said, it's for people who are class 6 and above. So why have you registered me? Then he said, I think you can do it. So go and do it. So I told him, okay, then get me the books of class 4 people, class 5 people, and class 6 people, so that I can read it and go and do it. Unfortunately, when I did it, with God's grace, I was one of the best students. So I was taken to Takrade Junior Secondary School, which is now Nana Bompede Secondary Technical School. From there, I went to GSTS. And it was, so I'm actually a proud giant. Now, I'm telling you all this because sometimes when you have a difficult background, you think that you can't go far. When I was from the age 12, which is when I was in the junior high school or junior JHS, all the way to the time I went to sit my A level. I was a student of people, which means school normally, but I was also a construction worker. Maybe that's why I did civil engineering. I don't know, but I was a construction worker because in the school we learned about building construction and everything. Then every weekend I went to carry blocks or drag foundation just to make a little money for my pocket because maybe I'm the kind of person that don't like complaining, don't like murmuring. I like to solve my own problems. And therefore, even at that age, I used to earn money by going to carry blocks, uh, big foundations for people, and go with my friends. We can take a whole foundation or contract and make it in 2 days. And I worked so hard that even when I didn't go to work, they would pay me because, especially when I was sick, they would still pay me because it was reckoned that when I come to work, I work more than everybody else. I learned through that how to do steel bending and all those kind of things. So I'm a metal worker, of course. I learned also a lot of it in GSTS because I did metal work. Then we used to construct wells, and one day the well almost collapsed on me, but I got out before it collapsed. And we worked with a very difficult man that day. After the thing collapsed, he asked me to, he showed us another place to take another well. And we had to take a new well before going home. Then I used to be a part-time master and science teacher, all to survive. And then, of course, I used to organize vacation classes for people all the way to lower six. So maybe from three JHS all the way to O level and lower six, I used to do all this. Then I went on, I moved on. So I was very strong in mathematics, excellent in science related subjects. I was excellent in technical subjects. I can talk a little bit and I worked very hard. I was very determined to do well and to succeed. And when in my pastime, I love to teach people. So you can see that what I'm doing now actually started a long time ago. Where did I go to school? I attended Tree University, which I'm very proud of. Of course, I went to University of Science and Technology and graduated in 1991. And then I went to Imperial College after National Service. I went to Imperial College of Science and Technology and Medicine in the UK. And then I got my MSc and diploma of Imperial College, which is the university that you are given, you sit an exam, and then they give you a diploma for attending that university. That's the only school in the world that does that. So you sit an exam, when you pass, you get a diploma for attending the school before you get your actual degree. So when you write your MSc DIC, everybody knows where you come from. Very prestigious qualification if you are in the UK. Very happy to report I did my doctorate later, much later. And that's another story at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, because I felt that there was no better place than that. I didn't have to go and stay anywhere. It's okay, more than okay. Therefore, I stayed there. Let me take a call. Please, the door is not locked. You can come in. The door is not locked. You can come
Yes.
in. All right. And then postgraduate certificate in change management and strategic leadership from Maastricht School of Management in the Netherlands. Whilst I was doing all these studies, especially my master's and PhD, I like to move around, I like exposure. So I was partly a student of Newcastle upon Tyne in the UK, University of Birmingham. I spent
Hello, I guess Prof has a challenge. I will reach him and then we'll continue. So please stay tight. We'll be back.
Sorry, I had a little bit here, and I think my system went off. Sorry. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, please, we can hear you.
All right, okay, so I can have to share my screen again. All right, thank you. Okay. All right, beautiful, thank you. So as I was saying, as part of, my educational journey, I spent some time in the University of Newcastle upon Tyne, in the United Kingdom, University of Birmingham, in the Indian Institute of Technology. Maybe that's why I like doing collaboration across the world. But what I was saying, which for me is important, is that, we do a lot of things locally. You go to KNUSC, you learn a lot of things. People give you recommendations, and then you go and study outside. Then when people graduate, they say, oh, I went to MIT, I went this. As if the one that prepared them for somebody to come for them, they do not do much. And I think we need to change, because, where you get your foundation determines everything. So if you are prepared well, others, it's just like building any foundation. If the foundation is well built, anybody can put a superstructure that is nice on it. So we need to always remember that the good foundation that you have been given is the reason why probably you are shining wherever you are, especially those of you in America and all those things, UK, Asia. People think, oh yeah, because I am in so and so university, it's like this, it's like that, it's like that. There's anything you can do, come and help. But don't criticize. Why? Because the resources of the state have been spent to educate you and make you better. And somebody has come for you. It's like somebody has trained his daughter or husband, somebody has trained a man, and you come and marry the person, and then you forget about the person and you start making comments. You don't do that, because it takes a whole lot of the full form. Somebody who doesn't know anything about engineering, somebody who is empty, the head is empty. Then you put something in that can be recommended for somebody who is just going around scouting for talent. So let's appreciate where we come from. Let's appreciate what has been done for us, and let's put something back if we can, so that we can always do it better. That's just by the way. Participated in several continuous professional development programs. Here I'm talking about short courses, webinars, conferences, summer schools. I myself have participated, but now I also do a lot of them myself. Almost every month or every other month, I'm giving a professional short course, webinar, conference, or something. I mean, so frequent that I've lost count. Many of the things I do, they are not on my CV, even though it's more than 50 pages. More than 2/3 of what I do, I don't write it on the CV because there are too many things on the CV. So what I'm trying to say is that to build a good professional life, a lot has to go in, and that's what creates the value. It's not just titles, it is the value that you create. And beyond this, I also do a lot of stuff. A Bible scholar, a pastor, I read a lot of books, so many other things, just to keep updated. Right, let's continue. Beautiful. So let's see, I'm now coming towards my employment life. So I've gone to school, primary, I've gone to secondary, I've done my university, did a master's, and then I got a job at the age of 25 as a lecturer in 22nd November 1993. And the first class I attended, the youngest person was 26 years old. So imagine, when I entered the class, this diploma student then were laughing at one of their colleagues that he was too young because they had gone through a longer route through the polytechnic. So most of them were almost 30 years old and so on. And one of them was 26 years old. And they were laughing at him, was too young and immature and all of that. And here was a lecturer standing in front of them, was 25 years old. So from that day, I decided I don't talk about age. And I don't deal with anybody by virtue of age. Why? Because I learned that sometimes people are looking at your age and then they are not listening to the wisdom that you have to bring to them. So from that time, I stopped talking about age. But from 1993, I've been Korea University. That's my main employment. Now, in order to be able to survive, when you go to university, especially you do civil engineering, we learn things like reinforced concrete design, which if you have a little courage, you can begin to get some drawing and you can do some calculation for an architect and you get paid a little money. So we all started like that, doing some calculations and then making some drawings, even just after school, so that we can make some money. And the salary was very bad, very poor. Then, I mean, it has not changed anyway. I don't know whether it's gotten better, but it has not changed. So one needed to survive, and therefore I will do some consulting where I do things for people, initially very small things like going to do the profile for somebody. So somebody's trying to build a building, and instead of saying the mason should go and make the profile, I learned how to do that so that I can do it myself with the carpenters. And then I supervise the construction. I do the, the calculations for architects and all of that. All of that, I put it in the box of freelance consulting because I've done that, and then from a young person, junior person, I've done that all the way to becoming a global expert, still doing things for people. And then in a more structured, organized way, but still as a freelancer. As I said, I'm a pastor since 2000. I've been appointed a pastor and ordained in 2010. And I do that pro bono. I don't charge God for anything, whether I preach or whether I consult for church. Not only my church, any church. I don't charge God. I mean, that's my policy. And that's who I am. I've been giving people career counseling and coaching since 1995, helping people. I recommended many people who are all over the world. That's it. I mean, if one day they want to come and help others, that's fine. But I mean, that's what it is. You have to help to guide people, give advice, write recommendations, help people so they can move on. And I'm not doing it because I'm a professor. Even when I was Mr. Adams, I used to do that. So you need to build your value. When you have a value, you can do whatever you need to do. And then I associate with consultancy firms. Sometimes they are going for a bid and they need a CV, and people do that a lot. So people work in consultancy firms, but their CVs are not weighty enough, especially the ones that have not been around for a long time. Or sometimes the skill that they are looking for to fill the position, they don't have it. So if I qualify, then I associate with them. When they get it, I do it. They get paid. Which is to say that don't just be an employee wherever you are. Have skills. Know the skills that are on the market that in short supply. Know the skills that are needed for different things, so that when you have sharpened your skills and you're prepared, then people will need those skills to execute their jobs. Then you also get paid some good money and you can live your life. Initially, it will be for survival. Later on, it can do anything for you. Let me try and explain this diagram that I put in. I was trying to capture my almost 30 years life in a very simple way. So let's see this way. From 1991, when I got a BSc, now we are in 2024, which is long before, more than almost 33 years. When I began my career, I fulfilled more technical roles. So I needed to have a lot of technical skills. That's what this green thing is showing. Hardcore technical skills, for example, how to conduct site investigation, how to do reinforced concrete design and planning. These are hardcore skills and needed to have hands-on experience. It's not something that I think I know about. There are things that actually needed to be able to do them practically. How to conduct traffic data. I needed to be able to operate the counter. I needed to be able to fix it, deploy it, know the different types of equipment, collect the data, analyze the data, plot the graph, everything. And you know why I learned this way? I was fortunate. I was working with one of my mentors, who passed on, but he always remains my number one mentor, was Professor Kumaple. Now, this Professor Kumaple, who also is a giant, one day he asked me he was looking for me to do some laboratory plots for him, some soil tests that had been done. And he couldn't find me. When I got to his school, I was at dawn because we were supposed to travel together to Accra. When I got done, he was in his study plotting the thing. It made a big impression on me that day. I said, how can this professor be plotting these graphs himself? And he did them right. So I said, hey, what that means is that you need to learn things that you don't forget. You need to learn things that stay with you for the rest of your life. You need to learn things that give you a foundation that cannot be shaken. And that was very instructional for me. So I decided to learn all the tests in the lab. I'm not talking about when we were in school. When I became a TA, I learned all the tests. So I went through every one of them myself. I read the standards, I read everything. When it comes to anything that I needed to know, whether it's design of buildings, structures, whether it was soils, whether it was roads, was to do with design, anything, I learned it practically. And I wanted to learn it in such a way that I can actually do it. Now here was I working in the university. So what it meant was that I needed to find myself doing internship. I heard about that before. So one day I told some lecturers, young lecturers, to do internship. They almost insulted me. I mean, what do you mean we should go and do internship? Are we small boys? Are we students? We are not students. But here was me. I had finished university and gone to Imperial College. I've done, what do you call it? Internship with Mott MacDonald in Winchester. So there was no need for me to do internship. But when they were doing the Accra Roads project, I offered to be an intern. So I was attached to the site, no salary. They just facilitated my transport. So every vacation, I would spend some time, engineers at the site, going around, learning, doing things, going to the laboratory, everything. What was I doing? I was picking the skills. For what? For a better future. Because as I told you, I was very determined to succeed, whether I'm a lecturer or not. In fact, I tell myself, I'm an engineer who's working as a lecturer. I'm not an engineer lecturer. I'm an engineer who got a job as a lecturer. So the fact that I'm lecturing doesn't mean that I just stay in the classroom and then read books and talk about them. No. I need to know how to practice engineering to the extent that my time will allow me, so that I can transmit the right information to students and also have enough skills to practice as an engineer so I can make some money. Because, for me, life is about inputs and outputs. When you go to school, it's an input. When you get a certificate, it's an input. When you get a degree, it's an input. Inputs don't give you returns. It is when you use the input to generate outputs that the returns come. So to the extent that you have not used your knowledge, your new knowledge or your plan skills to do anything, don't expect to get anything out of it. So you can have a lot of degrees before, and there are many people like that. You can have a lot of degrees and you are wondering why you are not being paid, because we don't pay people for getting degrees. We pay people for solving a problem. We pay people for developing a solution. We pay people for coming up with innovation. We pay people for doing something tangible with their knowledge. That is when we know that it's profitable. Otherwise, knowledge is not necessary, because if you acquire a lot of knowledge and you don't use it practically, it will become like having a cancer. Excessive knowledge will make you only proud and will destroy your life. So back to my green triangle. So I noticed that as I progressed over time, my need for learning certain technical skills was going to go down. Why? Because as I progressed, I needed to rather have more project management related skills. And this is because the kind of role that I was playing and seeking to play, I told you initially I was surviving, but now I had to move from survivor. So by the time, in I think 1998, thereabout, if my memory is right, I had already decided that I needed to move and do real consultancy that can affect the country. So I saw an advert in the papers where the German, somebody come to Ghana, then was working in Ghana Highway Authority in Kumasi, and put an advert to recruit somebody to come and work with him. And then it had passed. But I said, oh, this sounds like something I'm interested in. So I looked at the address and then I went to the place. Fortunately, when I went, he was conducting interview for the candidate to apply. He didn't apply. So I asked to see him, and I told him that, oh, I didn't see the advert. But really, I'm very interested in this job. I really want to do the job. Then he said, but you didn't. Oh, yes. I mean, I'm sure I'm the most suited person for this job, but I didn't apply. But I'm still interested. For nothing at all, can volunteer to be an intern because I want to be involved. But they were then going to do what they call this was GHA GTZ road maintenance project, something like that. And then he said, okay, go. And then later on, next week, come and see me. I want to finish the interview. So he interviewed the candidates, all right. But before I left, I told him that, look, this job, you are looking for full-timers, but actually I'm a lecturer in the university. So I want to do it part-time. And I think I can do it part-time with you because I live in Kumasi. My university is in Kumasi, your office is in Kumasi. And as a lecturer, I'm required to do some amount of consulting to be able to qualify as a lecturer. So he said, okay, go and come later and let's talk. So Monday, Tuesday, he called me, then I went. He asked me, how are you going to do this job at part-time basis? Then I showed him how I was going to do it. And I even said that now. And like, let's start 6 months. If you are impressed, you pay me. If you think that I'm not useful, don't pay. That's all. Let's make a challenge. Or you can fire me, no problem. Why? Because I wanted to get something to do that was higher than what I was doing before. I told you before, I was checking people's buildings, moving around people's sites, checking their construction, it's an individual project. But now I wanted to go into the corporate world. So I felt that this was a good opportunity if I could do something with him. So I started, when I went, he gladly welcomed me, and later on, I was employed instead of other people who. That is why the fact that something has passed is not even the reason why you should not make an approach. Because, my first major attempt at getting a job like that, I didn't apply when I saw the advert. But I made a presentation, and later on, I was selected, and none of the other ones were selected. All right, so what I noticed was that my need for learning these things was going down. Now I needed to learn more project management related stuff because now I was moving into a more organized corporate setup, a larger team, more 4 or 5 people working with me. I had a team leader, and I needed to read, but the reading that I did was not about trying to calculate for what do you call it, design, but now trying to figure out, for example, how we could develop the road management system for the Ghana Highway Authority. So it was more management related and not the hard skills. So I needed to now update other skills. So you see that what I was learning in my early years, the kind of hardcore skills, software and things was going down, but I was now investing in other blue skills for my project management related roles. And if I show you, let me just show you, sorry. I think I've covered it. Okay, so those are behind the technical roles, the green envelope. I showed that when I came, I was a novice. As a novice, a learner, a beginner, you are learning things. So you have to learn a lot of things to prove to people that actually you can do something and to prove yourself that you can do something. Then as time went on, I needed to learn more interpersonal skills because now I'm learning to work in teams with people, learn to interact with people, learn to make more presentations, and so on. But as a consultant, like I said, from 1998 coming, I now began to, as it were, play a role where I needed to write more reports. So my ability to read a lot, write good technical reports, make presentations, understand what I read and explain it in a language that the client will understand, follow up on meetings, and then get things done properly was improving. Consultant, if I was a junior, now I was moving towards call it a consultant, then become a senior, then probably call it principal or an expert. Then now I would say that I am at a point where I would say I'm a senior specialist or senior expert. Now, all these roles have gone on. I mean, like you are like his plan. And then why am I saying that? Because every few years, so you see that I've put the thing in 5 years, because my mind works in such a way that every few years I try to find out by how much have I improved myself? What have I done to improve myself? Because 1 year is too short. 2 years is very small. Maybe 3 years is long enough. But for me, every 5 years, I want to know whether my value has changed, whether I've updated my skills, whether I have made a new orientation, whether I'm going, my income has changed. So what have I done to change income? What new inputs have I made? What new output am I able to deliver? What new services am I able to deliver? Have I started something I wasn't doing before? These are things that I reflect on, but every 5 years I try to almost praise myself to see whether I'm doing something right. And as long as I see that I'm doing something right, then I know that certainly I'll get to the right place. So there's no cause for alarm. Even if I'm not getting money, I ask myself, why am I doing all these things? And then I'm not getting paid for it, or I'm not being rewarded for it. So that is one part of it. So in this chart, you will notice that as you move on a certain point, knowledge, different skills become important. And those skills go hand in hand with the technical one that you still have. Maybe what I haven't done well is to make the green one two-pointed. But you will always need the technical skills for whatever reason. So if you forget, you have to remind yourself or go and read it again. Because as I'm now, I'm working as a road asset management specialist. Now, as a road asset management specialist, my job includes to check, to review geometric design, to review pavement design. So I'm not the one designing, I review the report. My job is to check the quality assurance of the laboratory where they are carried out to make sure that the pavement is right. My job includes doing a safety audit of the site, maybe quarterly, to see whether contractor is doing okay and whether consultant is doing what he's supposed to do. Because I'm not a consultant. I'm working for clients, and my job on the client side is to make sure that all the people working for the client are okay. My job also includes advising the clients on what to do. For example, we just came from a meeting where I'm trying to get them to set up weigh bridge stations across the country, permanent traffic count stations across the country. And I'm have to convince them why you need to get this device and not that device. What are the technologies? So you need to know about them, and then instead of forgetting, you need to read them again so that you can give good, timely advice and on point. Okay. Oh, I think this is my roundabout that I'm working on in Liberia at the moment that we're just about to open. It's the first of this kind of roundabout, modern roundabout with a truck apron. The first that they're doing. And see, on this one, for example, I've had to learn a lot about stakeholder engagement, environmental and social risk management of projects, which is not what I learned in my early years. But we are dealing with an environment, an urban environment where traders have encroached on the corridor and we need to get rid of them. But we need to get rid of them responsibly because the donors will not allow you to treat them anyhow. And therefore, you need to understand the proper way of doing it, go about the right way, and then speak to them nicely, whatever. We are introducing this. We need to get the drivers. When you build a new facility like this in any place, in any country in the world, the first thing that will happen is that clashes will go up on incidents. Because if it's new, people may not know how to use it. So what we've done yesterday and the day before, I had training of police people, about 50 of them, on how to conduct enforcement. I'm talking to another 60 city guards tomorrow to come and do enforcement. Then I'll talk to the traders why they cannot arrange their things to block those signs and all of that, why they need to move away from there. And you know, to always have a very nice way of engaging with them. So it's not all less calculations. Calculation is for those days. Somebody will do that or they do that. The store cannot come and talk to the hawker and explain to them why they need to move, or why they can't sell here, or why they don't have to do this, or why they must not cross at this point. So you will notice that the practice of engineering, as you move, and even in the world, things are shifting. We need to know what is important so that we can shift adequately. And I'm sure by the end of June, we will open this and then the people will be very happy. So let me now come to what some of you want to hear. Types or categories of engineering consultants that you can find. And this is not in any way exhaustive because I told you I'm not going to copy this one from anywhere. I'm telling you from what I know. We have those companies that market themselves as consultants, and they are big ones like some Watch and Partners in Ghana, for example. We have Consortium, we have Acon, we have big corporate firms. These are private. Delin, there's so many of them. Then these ones, sometimes they also come as joint ventures. So two of them can join to become even bigger so that they can pay for a project. So they come as individuals or they come as companies by joining forces. Sometimes they join forces and they can join forces with a contractor, for example. If we want to do what is now a new trend that is coming, output performance based with contract. So you need a consultant and a contractor to join to be able to pay for such a job. And we will see more and more of that as the days go by. These days, the tendency is to see a lot of people who say they are NGOs, but they are running other corporate organization and they are also bidding. The only thing is that they don't declare profits. So whereas the normal corporate person would declare profits for each shareholders, the NGOs normally will plow back their profits. They don't declare profit, doesn't mean they don't make profits. They will plow back their profit into system or to do some good and continue. Then you can also have individual consultants. So consultant can be hired as a corporate joint venture. I mean, so all these are the same, or as an individual. So you can also develop and become an expert who is knowledgeable in a subject matter and can be invited to the highest level and pay what is due to deliver your service, sometimes by hiring people to help you, and sometimes yourself, depending on the nature of the assignment. There are assignments that are for individual consultant, like you can have, let's say you want to do an audit. Let's say the European Union has a policy where when they award a contract to the tune of more than 50 million euro, I think, they will appoint an auditor to go and then audit the work to see. So the auditor will audit the consultant and the contractor as the work is going on. So that one, for example, they can appoint somebody as an individual expert or an individual consultant to go and carry out that, or they can appoint two individuals I've done a couple of audits where I have a team leader and then another engineer. So maybe one is a highway engineer, one is a project management and construction management expert. Then the two of them put together, or one is a road safety expert, one is a highway engineer. They join forces and they do that. Depending on the nature of the assignment, the objective of the audit, what we seek to achieve with it. Now, I want to mention a few things. So, what is the role of an engineering consultant? Why do we need them? Some people say, oh, consultant, they don't do anything. They just come and ask you a few questions, and then they write it down and bring it as a report. Well, if that is how people are working as consultants, then I'm afraid that very soon nobody will call them again. Because a consultant generally, whether it's a corporate, individual, or whatever, engages in short-term projects for a variety of firms or clients. Usually, they are involved in recommending or supervising specific solutions. So they are involved in, sometimes they even design it, then they design and recommend, and then they supervise. They perform their job in the office. Consultants usually are in the office. However, frequently they visit sites, customers to evaluate challenges or participate in meetings. So generally, that's what consultants do. So when you see somebody have a consultant and you are on the side, sometimes you wonder what they do. They do the thinking in the office. They visit the sites, talk to one or two people, go back, think about it, read a few things around it, form an opinion, and then they give their recommendation. Majority of engineering consultants work in agencies that specialize themselves as for short-term solutions. So, for example, when you see people going to a particular firm, they get a job, let's say, with company A. So that's an engineering agency, engineering firm. And within it, these guys go there, depending on the level they are hiring them. They treat them as junior consultants that have come into the scene. In Europe and elsewhere, they tend to have people doing multitasking. So you come into their fold with your background, they train you, and you can do so many things for them depending on the industry that they serve. But several consultants also work as freelancers or contractors. That is, they work for people or deliver contracts for people and they pay them. So you can work in a corporate organization. So I'm saying this thing to say that if you are working for the government, you are not a consultant. But if you are working in the private sector in a consultancy, because the organization is a consultancy, they tend to want to train you to have a certain attitude and a certain mind to work in a consulting organization. If you are in a government sector, there's a way the public sector works. And that is the culture that is used to train you. So there's a distinction between that. But having said that, let me also say that different organizations offer different training to their people. And therefore, there's a vast distinction from company to company. There are some companies that take training very seriously. So when you enter, you join their company, they train you, and then they make you perform. There are some who will depend on the skills you bring. There are some that have employed you, but they'll give you more skills because they want you to be more productive so that they can benefit. Because when you are able to do that, that is when they get their return on investment. So consultants are usually people who may probably specialize in one area. So for example, somebody can be a transportation consultant like myself in civil engineering. There are people who say, we are civil engineering consultants, which means maybe we do something on roads, we do something on structures, we do something on geotech, we do something on water and sanitation, depending on what. You can also have a consultancy that is purely to tech, purely transportation, purely water. But in Ghana and in Africa, usually the market size is very small. The projects are very small. So those who specialize too much, it's only a matter of time, they will have nothing to do. So I see that some companies started at structures, but today if you go there, they do everything. There's nothing wrong with it because you have to adapt to the situation. Remember, they hire people or their partners, they come from different sectors, or they can also hire young people with various expertise to join the consultancy because they will hire people with the knowledge and the attitude that is applicable to consulting. So they bring them in, they do their orientation, then they start building a profile along that line. Then they do the work. But who qualifies to be a consultant? If you are a specialist, it's better. And I'm saying that because as I've looked around a little, I've seen that people who have no specialization, they have a lot of shortcomings. You can be a generalist, like you've done civil engineering and practiced for many years, and you can be a consultant. It's okay. You can specialize by experience, which means maybe you are in a firm and then they do a lot of transportation projects. So you spend a lot of time with the people who are there and then you specialize that way. That is one way to specialize. You can also specialize by doing a postgraduate course and then acquiring experience. Now, it's very important. Some think that specialization stops with the postgraduate degree. No, it starts with a postgraduate degree. Because when you go to the graduate school, you are introduced to a lot of, and you need to go and practice it to make sense out of it. And then in many cases in Africa, you have to adapt to it. You have to move a bit faster when the time is going. You have to adapt the knowledge that you've been given to the environment or the context. So get a specialization if you can, but you need brilliant knowledge of all aspects of the subject matter to assess solutions and problems. So you need good knowledge, substantial knowledge. If you have powerful IT skills, it helps. Because in today's world, everything is by software. So but somebody who can self-organize and establish and stick to deadlines, because the world of consulting is full of deadlines. And if you are not a type who can meet deadlines or you feel pressure, then you are not, it's not for you. For example, this week has been a very terrible week with several deadlines. I mean, last night I slept like 4 a.m. and I woke up to prepare this presentation before going to work because from morning meetings. So I thought even the presentation was 6 p.m. If my presentation was not ready, I said I was coming to sleep 15 minutes so that I can join the presentation at 6. Then I checked, it was 5. And I said, hey, let me set up my Zoom start. That's how it works. So if you cannot organize yourself, establish and stick to deadlines, maybe consulting is not for you. Why? Because the clients that don't have a problem paying you, they can give you a lot of pressure. I remember many years ago, I was working with my boss as a young man. And then we used to do some work for Anglo Gold Ashanti and their consultants. And these guys will bring some tests to our laboratory to test, some sample testing. And as soon as they bring it, they want the results. Why? Because paying was not a problem for them. They need the result to send to England for the design to be done and brought. So they will give you pressure and they will take no for an answer. If you don't meet their deadlines, they will find an alternative and they won't come to you again. Sometimes people are very good managers of specialists. So that's why they are into consulting. So they themselves may not have the high knowledge, but they can manage a lot of specialists who possess certain project management skills and the right attitude. Then they will be consultants because sometimes you have specialists who cannot manage themselves or put things together. So those who know how to do this thing very well can team up with those who are very knowledgeable but cannot organize themselves. And then they are better managed, then they deliver the results. It's partners, and then they share. So in that case, you don't tell me that I'm the geotech guy. No, I'm coming from a project management perspective, and I'm doing human resource. You are doing the geotech, I'm doing the transport, you are doing the water. We put it together, we're a team, then we deliver the goods. Okay, I think I'll finish soon. Oh, where's the team not moving? Okay, now I'm sure you're waiting to hear how much people are paid. So I try to think through how much people are paid. You will see that I put them in US dollar just so that so consultant 2 working days, 1 month. Consultant may receive, let's say, 1,500. I remember many years ago, I was doing some work for some consultants, and I think those early days around 2,000 thereabout. And then I said I should be paid 1,000 euro per month. And that translated to you divide by 22 working days, and you get the rate per day. So that is, I mean, how it can be. So sometimes when you are in 2000, it was about 24 years ago, you can be paid 1,500, between 1,500 and 2,000 per month. And somebody said, I remember the first time I told a client that this is how much you have to pay. He said, oh, come on. You can find many people in Accra who don't have work to do this kind of work. Why should I pay this? This money can hire 10 people. I said, thank you very much. Go and hire them. Bye-bye. See you later. I left. Then he said, are you going? I said, yes. Because you didn't ask me, why are you asking me for this amount of money? And what are you going to do that those your 10 people cannot do? Then I said, then he asked me, okay, what are you going to do that those guys cannot do? And I began to tell them some of the things, the knowledge I bring, the attitude I bring, deadlines, reporting, grace, that. So I'm not able to do it. You can sack me. And therefore he agreed. And then we started like that. So you can be paid that kind of money, but you have to deliver, even as a young man, because it comes with a lot of pressure. She moved on and see that between 2,000 and 5,000 per month. Can be paid. Now, why would they want to pay somebody 2,000 and pay another 5,000? Because they don't bring the same knowledge that gets you. And their way of working may be different, and their value may be different, and their means of experience may be different. The way we can use their CV may be different. That is why the range is there. So there's no one value for everybody. It's always a range, and depending on where you fit, you will pay. But this one is such a thing that usually you will have to negotiate, and you have to tell them what they are paying for before they will give you. Otherwise, you go as a senior, but they'll pay you as a junior. Because when you cannot articulate what they are going to get through your CV and through your interview or interaction, then you'll be paid lower than that, because then they think that probably to 95% of the people on the market all have the same skills and an attitude that we can forecast. Remember that in Ghana, for example, I can say that in the area of transportation engineering, maybe 98% of the people, okay, let me increase that, say 95% of the people all have the same skills. All have the same skills. So there are certain skills that when you are looking for people to do, it's very common. So why should they be paid more? But if, let's say, I'm looking for transport economics or a transport economics or an asset manager who also has substantial skills in transport economics, You can find one in 2 people among 30 million people. So if he comes and says, I want you to pay me $10,000 every month, they will say no. They'll say why? But they'll do, and before you know, they are paying. Because among 30 million people in Ghana, you can't find 10 people who fulfill the requirement, especially they can do that kind of job and do it well. And usually they will check how many of what job you have done on your CV. If you have done 3 to 5 of a particular thing, is good. There are people on their CV, they done one of that. And 5 years ago, they did another of another thing, another of another thing. And so I know how to do